Honor, the defendants call Emma Carmichael. She's not. She has. Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Ms. Carmichael.
Good afternoon.
Would you please state your full name for the court?
Emma Carmichael.
All right. Now, where do you presently work?
Gawker Media.
And you work in its New York office?
I do.
Okay. How long have you worked for Gawker?
I've worked on and off for about 5 years for Gawker.
All right. And where did you go to college?
At Vassar College.
And after leaving Vassar, I assume you graduated?
Yes.
Okay. After leaving Vassar, was your first job at Gawker?
No, my first job was with the New York City Parks and Recreation Department.
Okay. Let's go back just one more step. Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Brattleboro, Vermont.
Okay. And what was the year in which you graduated?
2010.
Okay. So then you go to New York Parks and Recreation?
Yeah, that's right.
And about how long did you hold that position?
About 5 months. I was a public affairs officer.
Okay. And what was your first connection with Gawker?
I worked as an intern for Deadspin during that same period, and I covered nights, so I would cover sporting events and post stories to the site.
Okay. So you'd work for Parks and Rec during the day, and then you would work at Gawker in the evenings?
That's right.
Okay. Now, so you started Deadspin. What is the focus of Deadspin?
I'd say sports and sports media and sometimes sports gossip.
All right. What is your current position at Gawker?
I'm currently Editor-in-Chief of Jezebel.
Okay. And Jezebel, could you explain to folks what Jezebel is?
Yeah, Jezebel is loosely a site for women. We cover women's issues. We have a mostly female staff, and we write to a mostly female audience.
Okay. How long have you been editor of Jezebel?
About a year and a half.
Now, between when you worked at Deadspin, how long did you work there?
Well, after I was an intern, I was hired in January 2011 as a video editor and staff writer, and I held that position for about a year.
Okay. At Deadspin, what different positions did you hold?
I was hired as a video editor, and I was promoted, or my title changed to staff writer a ways in, and I later returned as managing editor.
Okay. All right. Then, and you explained to us, you're presently the editor-in-chief at Jezebel. What other positions have you held at Gawker?
I was managing editor of Gawker.com.
Okay. And what point in time did you serve as managing editor of Gawker.com?
It was the period, I started that position when AJ took over as editor-in-chief. So I started in January 2012, and I held the position for a year.
All right. After that, after you held that position for a year, where did you go after that?
I briefly returned to Deadspin, and I was managing editor there. And then I ended up taking a job at a different website, a different company called The Hairpin.
Okay. And what did you do at the Hairpin?
I was editor-in-chief of the site. It's kind of a smaller women's site, so I published and edited just about everything we put on the site.
Okay. So you worked at the Hairpin. At some point then, what did you do after working at the Hairpin?
I returned to Gawker Media. I took the editor-in-chief job at Jezebel.
Okay, all right. Now, when you worked at Deadspin, who did you report to, or who did you work for?
AJ Daulerio.
Okay. And when you became managing editor at Gawker.com, who did you report to?
AJ Daulerio.
Okay. And did you leave Deadspin and come to Gawker.com at whose behest?
Yeah, AJ invited me to be managing editor after he took the editor-in-chief job there.
Okay. So at this point in time, did you like working with AJ?
I did, yeah. I felt I had learned a lot from him at Deadspin, and I felt eager to keep working with him at Gawker.
Okay. I take it if that were not the case, you would not have gone to Gawker.com to work with AJ.
That's correct.
Okay. All right. Now, when you were managing editor of Gawker.com, could you please explain to folks what your duties, what your responsibilities were?
Yeah, I basically oversaw our site management day to day. So that meant assigning and developing stories with our staff writers, and also just working very closely with our staff writers to get them on their best work and develop, feature ideas with them that we'd work on, beyond just our usual day-to-day news blogging. And I also did kind of site maintenance and management.
All right. When you refer to site management, what does that entail?
It's basically making sure that we're, staying up with the news cycle, that we're not missing out on stories that we should be covering. Sometimes it means, copy editing or tweaking headlines, or working with writers for, a specific angle they might bring to a story.
Okay. And you mentioned feature development. Mm-hmm. Is that kind of a little beyond just the day-to-day, what story's going to appear on the Post this afternoon?
Yeah, we wanted our writers to be working on their best work, so we'd have them working on longer projects, or sometimes they'd go out on reporting trips, and they'd be, turning around eventually drafts of stories, what we call features, so feature stories that we'd go back and forth with edits on. Maybe we'd get an original illustration for it, and we'd work on like the story layout together.
Okay. And then you mentioned story assignments. Is that kind of pretty much what it sounds like?
More or less, yeah. It's, I think it requires kind of knowing what your staff is best at, but figuring out what their strengths are and what news stories they'd be best to cover.
Okay. So like in any other job, you try to figure out who you got, what their skills are, and you assign them so they can do their best work. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I'd say so.
Okay. Were you good at that?
I was good at it. I was quite young for my job, and it was a pretty high-pressure job that I kind of learned a lot on the ground.
Okay. Now, how would you said I was young at the time. From where I sit, you're still young. But, that's a whole other story. How would you describe the experience going from being a Deadspin staffer, so then you get promoted and you end up the managing editor for Gawker.com as a fairly young person, right? How would you describe that experience to people?
It was, like coming into any new job, it was a bit overwhelming at first, and I had my own anxieties about how I'd rise to the occasion. But I also had been doing a bit of that work at Deadspin, because we had a pretty small staff, and the way our days flowed, I ended up doing a bit of informal managing and editing anyway. So I felt prepared for the general work requirements, and I also knew that I'd have to learn on my feet and kind of figure out how to best serve the staff and be a resource to them. And that was stressful like any other job, but I felt really prepared for it and ready for it.
Okay. So you felt ready at the time to take on that additional responsibility. Is that fair?
I did, yeah.
Okay. Now, Gawker.com at the time, how big was the staff?
I think it was about 10 people.
10 writers?
10 including editors, I think, maybe a little bit more.
All right. And now, So you've got these folks, and how many, just approximately, how many posts would you be producing a week?
In a week, it's hard to say, anywhere from maybe 100 to 200 posts in a week.
Okay, so it varied.
Yeah, I'd say so.
All right. Now, did Gawker provide you with training, any particular training for that job as managing editor?
I wouldn't call it particular training. I think, as with many jobs in journalism, I learned best in the field and working. And I had, a number of conversations with AJ about the job and what it would entail and how he thought I could best serve our staff. But I wouldn't call it a formal training.
Okay. So would it be fair to say that what we're talking about in journalism is kind of on-the-job training?
Yeah, I think, some people opt to go for an advanced degree or for formal training. I did not, and I thought I'd be best served going right into work and learning in the field, as I said.
Okay. As an editor that you reported to, was AJ good about giving you time when you needed to discuss a matter or you confronted a situation you'd not dealt with before?
Yeah, absolutely. We might have kind of informal conversations about a certain staff writer, how we could best work with her or him, what kind of stories we should get them working on.
Okay. You worked with AJ, I think, roughly how long altogether?
About 2 years.
Okay. And what lessons did you learn from Mr. Daulerio?
I learned a lot from him. I'd say probably the two most valuable lessons I learned from him is just good management. He's very good at getting the best work out of his employees and motivating them to do their best work. And I also learned, I think, about going after good stories and publishing them and putting together like the most complete site we could every day.
Right. Was he good at recognizing talent?
Yes.
Was he skillful in matching this person's talents with a particular story or assignment?
Yes, I'd say that's one of his great talents.
Okay. And did you learn from him in those respects?
I did, yeah.
All right. How would you describe, if we were to talk about your professional relationship with Mr. Daulerio, how would you describe it in your own words?
I'd say we're good friends and that he's been a mentor to me in my career.
Okay. Would you say he's been a mentor? Has he helped you in your professional development as a journalist?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. What do you think, you've worked with him for about 2.5 years, what do you think about his talents as a journalist?
I think he's a wonderful journalist and a great manager.
What is your professional relationship with Nick Denton?
It's a good relationship. It's been cordial, and we've worked, on and off together for 5 years now.
All right. I take it you haven't worked as closely with Mr. Denton as you have with Mr. Daulerio.
That's right.
Okay. Now, let us shift our focus, and we're going to talk a little bit about the post which brings us here today. Are you familiar with the October 2012 post written by Mr. Daulerio that is the subject of this case?
Yes.
Okay. Are you familiar with the video excerpt that accompanied that post?
Yes.
All right. When the piece and the video excerpt were posted on Gawker.com in October 2012, what was your position at that time?
I was managing editor of Gawker.com.
Okay. Did you play a part in the publication of the video excerpt?
Yes.
All right. What part did you play in the publication of the post?
Well, I copy edited the post, which essentially means I read it for spelling and grammar errors and for basic sentence structure fixes. And I also communicated with our video editor to communicate, AJ's request for how we would edit the video.
All right. Let us go back to the time when the video material, the so-called Hulk Hogan sex tape, first arrived at Gawker. All right. you focused on that period?
Yes.
Okay. What role did you have in receiving that video, the so-called sex tape?
Well, AJ was out of town, and I had received some kind of message from him that a package was arriving that would contain, a DVD or some kind of file that had this on it, and it arrived to his desk when he was out of town, and he had instructed me to open it and play it, so I did.
Okay. So he was out of town. He gave you a heads up so you could be on the lookout for it?
Yes.
Okay. Now, when it arrived, what did you do? What did you do next?
I opened the case, and I took out the DVD, and I played it briefly on my desktop computer.
Okay. So you watched portions of the video?
Yeah, I watched a brief portion of it that day.
All right. And after you looked at the video, did you tell Mr. Daulerio anything about it?
I just told him that we had received what he thought we were going to receive, and I waited to hear more from him for how we'd pursue.
Okay. So you told him it was as had been foretold, right?
Yes.
Okay. So did he tell you who sent this video, this Hulk Hogan sex tape, to Gawker?
No.
To this day, as you sit here with us, do you know who sent the tape to Gawker?
No.
You know who sent the tape to Mr. Daulerio?
No.
Now, you view it, you confirmed to AJ that it had shown up, right? What did you do after that exchange with Mr. Daulerio?
I believe I mentioned to to Leah Beckman, who was another editor with us, that we had received this, and I was waiting, word or AJ's return. And then I kind of went on with my day, so I had a site to run.
Okay. Was any guidance provided about where this, I take it Mr. Daulerio returned at some point?
Yes.
Approximately how long after you had done the initial brief look at the video?
Approximately within a week of that
Okay.
time, yeah.
So he's now back in the office. Was any guidance provided about where this particular piece was headed?
Yeah, I kind of had a loose understanding of the piece he was working on, and that there would be, commentary, and that we would edit down the video into a very brief portion.
Okay. Did you say a brief portion?
Yes.
And was it Mr. Daulerio who provided that guidance?
Yes.
Okay. Now, what direction was provided about editing the video?
Well, we kind of wanted it to go along with the commentary that AJ was writing, and so we wanted a minimal amount of sex in the actual video, and we wanted kind of an abundance of kind of general, daily conversation that we ended up highlighting in the video.
Okay. And was that direction provided by Mr. Daulerio?
Yes.
Okay. All right. What about subtitles? Was there any decision to include subtitles?
I can't recall.
Okay. Now, you as managing editor, I take it you didn't do the actual film editing?
No, I did not.
Okay. And who handled the actual film editing?
Our staff video editor, Kate Bennett, did the editing.
Okay. Did you speak to her about editing the video?
Yeah, we communicated a little bit in the office, and I just passed on AJ's request for the edits.
Okay. So you gave her direction about how Mr. Daulerio was intending to frame this story?
That's right.
Okay. And did you speak together with Mr. Daulerio and Ms. Bennett, or did you deal with her separately?
We might have all spoken together. I don't recall exactly.
Okay. So before this piece is published, you've spoken with Mr. Daulerio, Ms. Bennett, about the editing?
Right.
Okay. Did you see the edited version of the video excerpt before it was actually posted?
I'm not sure. I believe I did.
Okay. Now, you've seen that video excerpt.
Yes.
Okay, the portion that was posted on the site. How would you describe the quality of that video itself?
It's not very good.
And when you say not very good, are you speaking in terms of the quality of the actual video product?
The visuals,
Yeah.
correct, yeah. Yeah, it's in black and white and kind of grainy from what I remember.
Okay, all right. Now, did you read the post, the actual commentary, before it was published on the site?
I did, yes.
Okay. And did you perform an editing function on the post itself?
Yeah, as I said, I did a copy edit, so I checked for spelling and grammar errors and that sort of thing.
Okay. As the managing editor for Gawker.com at that point in time, what did you think about the final version of the piece with the video excerpts?
I thought it was complete. I thought we provided, sufficient context for the story that we were reporting on, a story that had been reported on. And I thought that AJ's tone and his commentary aligned with like the video that we were actually publishing. And so we were presenting kind of a clear piece with an argument that was reflected in both the video and the commentary.
Okay. Were you comfortable with the post when it was published on the site?
Yes, I was.
Okay. How long was the video excerpt?
I believe it was under 2 minutes.
Okay. And as you sit here with us today, do you remember how much of it was actual depicted sexual activity?
Yeah, I believe it was under 10 seconds depicted sexual activity.
Okay. As managing editor, were you comfortable with the way the story was framed?
Yes, I was.
As managing editor, were you comfortable with the context that was provided with that story?
Yes.
All right. Ms. Carmichael, what does this, we've seen the piece, we've looked at it, the NSFW stand for?
Not safe for work.
Okay. And what does that mean to you?
As someone who uses the internet every day, it's sort of a good warning signal that this might not be something that you want open in your place of work.
All right. Now, let's take a look at, Tim, if we could pull up Plaintiff's Exhibit number 2, which is the, you'll see there, that is the October 4, 2012 post. Do you recognize that?
Yes.
Okay. Now, did you see the headline, even for a minute, watching Hulk Hogan have sex in a canopy bed is not safe for work, but watch it anyway. Did you see that?
Yes.
Okay. Did you have any role in writing that headline?
No, I didn't.
Is managing it, so Mr. Daulerio wrote the headline?
I believe so.
Okay. And as managing editor, were you comfortable with that headline?
Yeah, I thought, and I still think that it reflected the kind of tongue-in-cheek tone of the post itself.
Okay. So you took it in kind of a tongue-in-cheek context?
Yes.
All right. Now, at the time you were working on this particular post, did Mr. Daulerio indicate his expectations regarding the level of traffic for this story?
No, not that I can recall.
Okay. Did Mr. Daulerio indicate what he thought of Hulk Hogan?
No.
Okay. While working together on this story, did Mr. Daulerio indicate in any way that he harbored ill will towards Hulk Hogan?
No, not at all.
Now, is the managing editor, the news value, what did you take the news value of Mr. Daulerio's piece in the accompanying video? Did you think it was newsworthy?
I did, yeah.
Right.
I thought it was dealing with a public figure, and it was a story that had been previously reported on for months at that point. And once we had the document itself, we felt we had the right to move forward with publishing it.
Okay. And were you concerned, as the managing editor, were you concerned about Gawker relying on material that had been provided by an anonymous source?
I think normally that would be a concern, certainly. I think in this case, the document we'd received in the mail was essentially self-authenticating, and by that I mean it was exactly what we were told it would be,
Okay.
and we were comfortable with that.
Just so we're clear, when you say the document you received in the mail, you're referring to the sex tape?
Yes.
Okay. You're using document to kind of broadly?
Yes.
Okay. And then, when you refer to it being self-authenticating, could you explain to folks what you mean by that?
Yeah, the person in the video appeared to be who we were told it would be, and the screenshots that had been previously published matched the video that we'd received in the mail.
Okay. When you viewed portions of the tape, did you think the tape was made without plaintiff's knowledge?
I didn't know.
Okay. You couldn't tell for certain?
No, I couldn't tell.
All right. What impact did that have on your decision, Gawker's decision, to publish excerpts from the sex tape?
We considered it, but we also felt like the context surrounding the story, the number of stories that had already been published on it, and the context we gave it in the actual published piece were sufficient.
All right. Let me ask you this. Did you consider that Hulk Hogan might be upset by the publication of these excerpts?
Yeah, I did.
All right. And if you could explain to us like how you grappled with that in your position there as a journalist.
Yeah, I think it's something journalists grapple with frequently, maybe regularly on a day-to-day basis. You consider the stories that you're publishing and how they might affect the subjects that you're writing about. It's also true that when you're writing about public figures, you're not often or constantly writing kind of glowing profiles of them. And it's true that in this case, we knew we weren't doing that either. And those are considerations you make, and if you feel like you have the full story, correct story, and you feel comfortable with what you put together, you make the decision to publish.
Do you personally find that to be difficult at times?
Yeah, I do.
All right. Now, you left Gawker.com to go back over to Deadspin shortly after the Hulk Hogan post.
Yes.
Is that right? Roughly how long between the post in October and when you went back to Deadspin?
Roughly three months, I'd say.
Okay. And did Mr. Daulerio leave Gawker.com about the same time?
Yes.
Okay. Was your departure in any way related to the publication of the challenge post?
No, it was not.
Not at all?
Not at all.
Okay. And to your knowledge, was Mr. Daulerio's departure, was that related in any way to the publication of the challenge post?
No, it was not.
Right? Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
You testified that in late 2010, for about 3 months, you were an unpaid part-time intern at Deadspin.
About 5 months, I believe.
And as an intern, you worked the night shift.
Yes.
And then in January 2011, A.J. Daulerio offered you a full-time job at Deadspin as a video editor.
Yes, that's correct.
And all this happened right after you graduated college, correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
You had that job for 1 year, the video editor job, which also included writing stories.
Yes.
And you reported to A.J. Daulerio throughout that year?
Yes.
And then after that year, A.J. Daulerio promoted you to be managing editor of Gawker.com?
Yes.
And that was the #2 position at Gawker.com?
That's correct.
And you were 23 years old at the time?
That's correct.
And you had only been in the working world for 1.5 years, correct?
Yes.
You received no formal training before you became managing editor of Gawker.com?
I wouldn't say formal training, as I said. I think I received informal training, conversations with AJ about the work that I'd be doing, the staff I'd be overseeing, and how I could best fill that role.
My question is, you received no formal training to be editor, managing editor, correct?
That's correct.
Your only training was on the job.
Yes, as in many fields, I learned on the job.
When you and AJ Daulerio were at Gawker.com, Mr. Daulerio, as editor-in-chief, talked with staff about the need to drive as much web traffic as possible to Gawker.com, correct?
Yes.
And the minute and 41-second sex video drove millions of people to the Gawker.com sex tape page?
Yes.
And when Gawker Media sites have more web traffic, Gawker Media makes more money from the advertising?
I think that's loosely correct, yes.
Could we pull up Plaintiff's Exhibit 114, please? Go to page 2. We're going to blow this up. You can see it on your screen. You've seen this document before?
Yes.
These were emails that were received by all 10 editors and staff writers at Gawker.com in March 2012, correct?
Yes.
And you received these emails yourself.
I did.
And these emails state, quote, Hulk Hogan says the sex tape being shopped to porn companies was secretly filmed without his permission. And then the line below that, and is nothing less than an outrageous invasion of privacy. Do you see that?
I do.
And these emails were received by everyone at Gawker.com on the editorial side, all 10 people, 6 months before your office received that DVD, correct?
Yeah, I can't speak to how many people read this particular email, but if it was sent to tips, then everyone received it in their inbox.
That was my question. It was received by all 10 people.
Yes.
6 months before you received the DVD that had the Hulk Hogan sex tape on it.
Yes.
You testified a moment ago that you could not tell if Mr. Daulerio was secretly filmed
That's correct.
from watching the video. But you watched that video, or portions of it, and you saw that the camera was from a very high point of view,
Yes, I did.
and the camera was far away from the bed,
Yes.
and Mr. Daulerio never looked at the camera,
In the portions that I saw, no, he did not.
and the woman never looked at the camera.
That's correct.
You're aware that this lawsuit was filed October 15th, 2012?
Yes.
Can we pull up Plaintiff's Exhibit 126, please? You've seen this document before?
Yes.
The date of this document, it's an email exchange, and it's a few emails, October 22 and October 23 of 2012. Do you see that?
Yes.
So these emails were 1 week after Mr. Daulerio filed this lawsuit.
Yes.
This was an exchange between you and AJ Daulerio about editing a second Hulk Hogan sex tape to be posted at Gawker.com, correct?
Yes.
1 week after this lawsuit was filed.
That's correct.
And at the bottom, Kate Bennett, who's the video editor, who edited the original minute and 41 tape, is sending to you this second Hulk Hogan sex tape, correct?
Right.
And this was edited from the original 30-minute DVD that you received in the office?
Yes.
And so Kate is telling you, okay, so here is this, and then there's a link, and then you went to that link and you watched all or a part of the second Hulk Hogan sex tape?
Yes, to the best of my recollection.
And then she asked you if it's good to go, I can subtitle it tonight or whenever. And then above, you respond, you wrote to AJ Daulerio, this work, subtitles, question mark?
Yes.
So you were asking Mr. Daulerio if this was acceptable to post and if he wanted to have subtitles on the second Hulk Hogan tape?
I don't think I was asking if it was acceptable to post, but I know that he was working on a second story, and we were trying to put a video together for that, so I was asking if it was what he wanted out of the second video.
And then Mr. Daulerio responded, subtitles maybe. He was sending this to you. Subtitles maybe. Also, is there any more ridiculous sexy talk a la Bubba effed the SH out of me today? Correct?
Yes.
And then below that he says, but it's headed in the right direction.
I see that.
You're familiar with revenge porn?
Yes.
Your definition, which you gave at your deposition, is that revenge porn is when a pornographic video or photo is used to punish someone?
Yeah, that's a pretty broad definition that I gave. And I think that the term has evolved quite a bit over the years.
But that's the term you gave at your deposition.
Yes.
And you had an opportunity, did you not, to write out any changes that you wanted to within 30 days of receiving your deposition?
Yes, I did.
And you never changed the definition of revenge porn?
No, I didn't.
And I asked you at your deposition, how is porn used to punish somebody? And you answered, quote, tapes recorded against someone's will or released against someone's will. Correct?
Yes.
At the time Gawker posted the Balea sex video, you had no idea if the video was sent by somebody who was engaged in revenge porn.
No, I didn't.
And you are not aware of any effort by anyone at Gawker.com to find out if the Balea sex video was revenge porn.
No, I'm not.
You were the managing editor of the site, the #2 person, and you made no effort whatsoever to find out if the Hulk Hogan sex video was someone committing revenge porn.
No.
It was assumed at Gawker.com that Mr. Balea did not approve the release of the sex video, correct?
I believe so, yes.
Let's pull up Exhibit 70, please. This is a post at Jezebel from July of 2014.
Yes.
Were you the editor-in-chief at Jezebel at that time?
No, I was not.
Are you familiar with this post?
Yes.
It's titled, Tumblr Refuses to Take Down Illegal Public Restroom Photos. Is it your understanding that, well, let me ask a different question. Do you know the person who wrote this?
I've never worked directly with her, but I know her byline.
So let's blow up the first paragraph there, please. This is somebody at Jezebel who was criticizing the fact that Tumblr was not removing a secret bathroom photo from Tumblr, correct?
Yes.
It says former police officer David Cerno was recently arrested for placing a hidden camera in a mobile gas station bathroom in Chesterfield, Missouri, and then posting the videos on a porn site. Now, after the site has been taken down, stills remain searchable on Tumblr, yet Tumblr refuses to take down the photos. What gives? Question mark. Apparently, Tumblr is loath to honor potential victims' requests. Correct?
Yes, I see that.
And then if you can turn the next page, please. The highlighted part. To Tumblr, just above the yellow. To Tumblr, how about taking down the photos because they're clearly a violation of people's privacy? As of the date of your deposition, you testified you had spoken to Nick Denton between 50 and 75 times?
Yes.
Is it your understanding that Mr. Denton believes that journalism should include exposing people's secrets?
Sometimes.
And it's your understanding that Mr. Denton believes that playing video of people fully naked is part of journalism?
In this case, it was.
And it's your understanding that Mr. Denton believes that journalism should include playing video of people having sex?
In this case, it was, again.
Even if the subject of the video does not know that they're being recorded, that is still the case?
In this case, it was, or we assumed it to be.
You are aware that Mr. Daulerio was likely to feel distressed, hurt, upset, and embarrassed, and yet Gawker.com posted the sex video of him anyway, correct?
Yes, I put thought into that.
And you believe it was a good thing that the video of Mr. Daulerio fully naked and having sex was posted at Gawker.com, correct?
I believe that the video edit that we published and the commentary that accompanied it was a full and complete story, yes.
That wasn't my question. My question was, do you believe it was a good thing that Gawker.com posted a video of my client fully naked and having sex?
Yes, I'm comfortable with the story that we published.
And if you had it to go over again, you would do the same thing?
As I believe I said in my deposition, that if history were to repeat itself, I would republish the story.
No further questions.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Carmichael, just to clear up a few points. Mr. Harder called up an email that you received from TMZ. Do you recall that?
Just seeing it now, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He called up an email and it had a quote in there about secretly filmed or some such thing. These emails, who did they come from?
I believe that was from TMZ's publicist.
Okay. So aren't they like called TMZ tips? Isn't that what they?
Yeah, that's correct.
Oh.
Yeah.
All right. Now, do you get these? This isn't some kind of legal notice, is it?
No.
No. It's a publisher, TMZ, who we've discussed here before you arrived, is into this whole celebrity, gossip, all this kind of stuff. That's kind of their stock and trade. Are you aware of that?
Yes.
Okay. Now, they send these so-called advisories, they send these tips to let you know at Gawker that they did a story on something.
Yes.
Is that fair to say?
Yeah, we receive a number of those in a given day.
Okay. Is their purpose to draw attention to what they're putting out there?
Yeah.
Okay. And I take it, do you read every one of these TMZ tips religiously?
No, I don't.
Do you read them on a regular basis?
No, I don't.
Okay. I assume that in your role as managing editor, you receive all manner of things, right?
Yes, our tips line is quite active.
Okay. People are hoping, I take it, that you at Gawker will pick up on their story and that'll bring more attention to them, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. Is that customary in the online publishing business based on your experience?
Absolutely.
Okay. Now, Mr. Harder talked with you about a second story, right?
Yes.
A potential second story on the Hulk Hogan sex tape. Okay. Did such a second story ever run?
No.
All right. Never saw the light of day?
No.
Okay. Mr. Harder also talked with you about revenge porn, right?
Right.
Is revenge porn a subject that you, when you took over the site at Jezebel, something that you have reported on?
Not me personally, but the site has.
Yes.
Yes.
Perfect. The site when it was under your editorship.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. The Hulk Hogan sex tape post appeared back in October of 2012. Was this notion of revenge porn, was that big in the public consciousness at the time?
No, not very big. I'd say it had a much more kind of a smaller definition at the time.
All right. What was the definition, at least as you understand it, at that time, back in the fall of 2012?
As I understood it, it was specifically kind of relationship focused. So the idea was, adults who were in a consensual relationship who might have shared naked videos or photos or filmed themselves having sex. After a breakup, one of them would use those documents to, publicly shame or punish their former partner.
Okay, so someone is hurt or frustrated by the breakup of the relationship, and then they take private information, put it out there to embarrass the person?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And I take it these are private individuals?
Yes.
Okay. These aren't celebrities, these aren't rock stars, that kind of thing?
No.
Okay. And that was of concern to people?
I'm sorry?
And that became a concern that was addressed?
Yeah, there were a number of sites at the time that were specifically created to cater to that, to people who wanted to do that. And that was a big topic of discussion on the internet.
All right. And just to, I think you'll recall that the piece that Mr. Harder displayed there on the screen bore a date not of October 2012, but 2014, right?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. Let me ask you this last thing. Did this whole notion of revenge porn and the concern about it, has it only grown in recent years?
Yes.
Okay. And presently, as we're here in 2016, it's an even bigger issue?
Yes, it encompasses a much bigger realm, I'd say, at this point.
All right. I have no further questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I don't know. Oh,
It seems like it was ready to be published, what stopped?
I don't know.
Did you direct or follow up?
No, ma'am.
All right, and the next question is, did she or do you have you in the past or do you have an intimate relation with either Mr. Daulerio or Mr. Denton?
No.
Any problem?
No, ma'am.
Mr. Hartman?
No, you're not.
All right, thank you. Now we'll take a real couple of breaks. How about 10?